from the Mexican consulate here in Los Angeles. I am very happy to be able to participate in this wonderful event that we put together with our friends Rita García Lascurain, the director of MUCHO, the Museum of the Chocolate in Mexico, and of course José López Ganem, that is a fantastic friend that I have met from so many years, but now he is joining us from the Fine Cacao and Chocolate Institute in Boston, Massachusetts, right? Or in Cambridge?
Same thing.
Well, in New England. So from the West Coast to the East Coast, and then to Mexico City, and then to Texas, we will come back to Los Angeles, and we will have a wonderful conversation around the celebration of the Dia de los Muertos, Day of the Dead, with my fantastic colleagues, 5 colleagues, well, including myself, and different cities, of course, the capitals, Washington, D.C., Mexico City, Boston, Dallas, and Los Angeles. And of course, the chefs that make our lives being, happier. So just the thought about chocolate and Altar de Muertos and Dia de los Muertos makes me happy, even though we're struggling through difficult times. But, remembering and enjoying, that's what we should do to evocate the ones that we have lost. So thank you so much. And without further ado, I will ask José López Ganem to keep on with this conversation.
Thank you so much, Marcela. I have to thank you as the Consul General of our community in Los Angeles, but also your entire team, Sandra, specifically Sandra López, who has been your co-planner partner during this event, and all the team that is making this broadcast possible. I have no other words of appreciation also for my colleague Rita García Lascurain, who has been in this battle of chocolate cross-border, if I might steal that term from you, Consul Marcela, to build a community of our countries based not only on chocolate, the product, on chocolate, the cost, and what chocolate creates, which is what we're here to celebrate. I want to start with a quote of one of our greatest, Octavio Paz, that I think elates why are we today celebrating, why are we having a remembrance of death. That is, the Mexican is familiar with death. She jokes about it, she caresses it, she sleeps with it, she celebrates it. She is one of her favorite toys, and as a matter of fact, one of her first steadfast loves. So I think that should kick us out. And before starting, of course, with our conversation, Rita, please introduce yourself to the audience.
Oh, thank you so much, Jose. It is very exciting, and it's been a past few days thinking about this event and how we are building culture across the nations through this very special celebration. I think this is a first and an unprecedented event in the sense that we are able to come together from so many cities in a very particular and painful moment in the history of humanity, but in a celebration of the living also, and of the ones that have passed. So thank you, Consul Marcela, for organizing this amazing event. Thank you, Jose, for everything that we've done together and for bringing us together here also. And thank you to everybody today.
Thank you so much, Rita and Jose. So now we will get to know how our consul in Washington, D.C. is celebrating the Dia de los Muertos. And maybe he can tell us, what about when he was a kid, what is the first resemblance about this day? Rafael Laveaga, our consul in Washington, D.C.
Hi, Marcela. This could be a very long story, but I know that time is limited. My memories as a kid, I want to start them by showing you a picture that I have right here. And I hope it looks okay. I am the little guy on the right. And the lady in a dark suit in the middle, she is Tita. Most Mexican families have someone nicknamed Tita. And she was my Tita, my mother's older sister. She took us in the neighborhood where I grew up, Santa Maria la Ribera in Mexico City. It took us every day of the dead to a candy store by the name of La Cubana, where as we entered, my brother, my sister, and myself with Tita, it was like a window to happiness because everything was decorated magnificently with all these colors of purple and orange. And the mission for us was to find out our sugar skull. There was this huge display with sugar skulls with names in the foreheads. And the mission was to find your name in the sugar skulls. Now they do it as well, chocolate skulls. But the traditional ones that are ancient, I'd say, are the sugar ones. And well, my brother teased me around saying that I was not gonna find my name because my name was kind of weird. And I suffered a lot. But once I found my sugar skull with the name Rafael, I was the happiest boy on earth. That's my memories of how we celebrated. Not always did we set an altar, but sometimes we did. I just want to make a parallelism. We are in November. November is Thanksgiving for the American people. And I find parallelisms because in the Day of the Dead is a family reunion day. It's a day where you talk about your ancestors. That's what the way I got to know my grandparents that I didn't meet, or the uncle, the aunts, and my ancestors, because you speak about that. You eat food as in Thanksgiving. So we share a lot of values, Americans and Mexicans, through the Day of the Dead in Mexico, and a few weeks later, Thanksgiving. That's my memories in general. That's why I remember of my childhood when it comes to the Day of the Dead, Marcela.
Thank you, Rafa. This is a very nice story, and I think that most Mexicans from these adultos contemporáneos, because Canal 22 is helping us to transmit this wonderful event. So maybe I will pop sometimes a Spanish word, but los adultos contemporáneos estamos acostumbrados a esas calaveritas de azúcar. ¿No, José?
I think it is. We're very accustomed to anything sweet. I think Mexicans has problem with the bitterness of chocolate. And speaking about chocolate, which is something that brought us here together, I'm very honored, Rafael, to introduce you to one of my favorite people in the world that happens to have three things that we share in common. Matt and I are proud alumni of the Culinary Institute of America. We happen to make a career in cacao and chocolate very early on. And we, I think, enjoy taste for very expensive bourbon, a very key part of American culture, I have to say. And I don't know if you agree with me, that the third love developed because of our work in the second, which is in the cacao and chocolate. But today, we're not here to talk about that part of our bitterness and job. We're here to introduce a particular holiday to the cuisine of man and to delight the Rafael with one of those treats. Matt, why don't you tell us a little bit what inspired you to create something with MUCHO chocolate from Chiapas, using Chiapas cacao for our community in Washington, D.C. Matt, the microphone is yours.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jose. And I just want to take a quick second to say thank you to Jose and everyone who made this event possible and for welcoming me into it. I'm really grateful for the opportunity and the opportunity to learn more about the day and the culture. It's really been a wonderful experience. And to meet everyone, it's been great. In such difficult times, it's wonderful to share something like this, even from afar. But my inspiration was basically one of my favorite Mexican flavors is sour orange. And I kind of know that chocolate, especially this wonderful chocolate from Rita, is paired really well with the sour orange. And I kind of wanted a vehicle to bring those flavors together. And I know one of the more popular pastries in the day in Mexico is a bread, is a sweetened bread. So the first thing that came to my mind with my culinary CIA training, and as I'm sure Jose knows, is it's very French. So a French pastry called craquelin, which is a base of brioche dough. And inside of the brioche dough, you roll or fold in a sugar cubes soaked in a syrup or a liqueur. And once the brioche dough is cooked, that kind of melts and infuses the inside of the dough with this really nice, sweet, delicious kind of filling. It kind of disappears into the dough. And I thought that this would be a really good way to kind of tie in the pastry from the day and the chocolate. And I made a ganache out of Rita's wonderful chocolate and dipped those craquelins in the ganache. So it kind of brings all those flavors together, and I had a lot of fun making it and a lot of fun working with the chocolate. I did save an entire bar for myself, which maybe I shouldn't be confessing that. I really hope that Rafael and everyone who got to try these is enjoying them. I had a real joy making it.
In the process of spirit making, when the spirit loses some of the evaporation because of aging in oak, it's called the angel share. What you just did, Matt, is the chocolate maker's share, which is, I think, something important to take in account. And Rafael, what do you have to say about the pastry? You're the end consumer. Please enlighten us with some on-screen biting.
This is the one.
Buen provecho.
Take a bite as well.
I don't know if you see the orange here. This thing has sugar cubes stuffed with bitter orange, mixed with bitter orange. So the pairing of Mexican chocolate, which is dark chocolate, and the brioche and the bitter orange is fantastic. I confess I have never tried such a thing. And I hope that this Mexican chocolate is as aphrodisiac as Montezuma II perceived the chocolate. How about that?
I would like to prompt Matt to tell us a little bit of what he learns from Dia de Muertos during this celebration, and perhaps pair it, as we speak about food, with this wonderful display, with this wonderful altar in your back, Rafael. Matt, why don't you inspire us and prompt Rafael to speak a little bit more about this display that he has in the back?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the most interesting things that I learned, I think Rafael already touched on it, with the similarities between the day and what we Americans are more familiar with is Thanksgiving. I think it's a really beautiful celebration of remembrance and celebration not of the loss itself, but as the life of the people you were close to and like the people in your family. I thought that was really beautiful, and I thought the altars were a really beautiful tribute to that. And so, yeah, Rafael, I'd love to know more about your altar. What's the tribute? What's the story?
Thank you, Matt. Well, this is a classical altar. I don't know how well do you see, for example, the Guadalupe, the Virgen de Guadalupe. This is a typical altar of 7 stages. Originally, altars were supposed to have 9 stages, which are the 9 steps that you have to take in order to get to the underworld, according to the pre-Hispanic mythology. But this one is already, it's a modern one with 7 stages. The first one needs to be religious, a religious image. We decided to put on the Virgin of Guadalupe, who, regardless of what religion we belong to, we all know as Mexicans that Guadalupe is a national symbol. In the second stage, we have mirrors. You're supposed, Matt, to have mirrors because once you come to the earth, you come back to the earth once souls come back to the earth, you look at the mirror to remember how you looked like when you were human. And then the next stage, it has toys for for those who passed when being children. So the souls come and play as children. Then the next stage, the next level, it's got food. That's where chocolate comes up. Both chocolate, pan de muerto, bread to honor the dead, some tequila as well. Things that the dead liked when they lived on Earth. And then the next step needs to have the pictures of those to whom we are honoring this year, and we're honoring the Mexicans who passed due to the COVID-19 here in the Washington metropolitan area. That's in general what we're seeing behind me.
Is there anything you would like to add for the viewers that are sharing this time with us today? Any of you?
Well, on my side, I cordially invite you at Consul Mex-Boas at 7:30 tonight, Eastern time, because we're going to have the inauguration of this very nice altar. You're all invited, and I just want to add that I thank Rita, Marcela, and José for being such a gracious hosts this afternoon. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rafael. Matt, any brief words of goodbye?
Yeah, I just want to say thank you all again for having me. It was an honor to be a part of this celebration. Thank you, Jose, and thank you, Rita, for the wonderful chocolate. And yeah, thank you all for being here, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the celebration. I know I will.
Thank you so much, Matt. And Rafael, do enjoy those CIA crackers, not the one in Largy, Virginia, but Culinary Institute of America in Hyde Park, New York. And Rita, let's make a transition. Let's go and buckle up our seatbelt.
Well, I am, my mouth is watering already with that bite that Rafael gave to the cracker lane. And it made me think of the combination of ingredients as like this contemporary abstraction of the pan de muertos that has the orange flavor together when you soak it into a hot chocolate caliente. So wonderful, Matt. I wish I was there to try it, you know. And then Rafael's history of when he went to Santa María la Ribera, La Chocolatera, La Cubana, brought me back memories from my own childhood of choosing the name, you know. But also wanted to let Rafael and everybody know that we fortunately have the remains of what the Chocolatera La Cubana had in the museum, in a showcase. So the Fundación Merced, that is the keeper of that tradition, gave us the last pieces and molds and brands and tags of the Chocolatera La Cubana, which is a cornerstone of chocolate culture in Mexico. So more than invited to visit at MUCHO Chocolate Museum. And well, amazed by this event. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rita. And now, well, I am so happy to be able to see you, my dear Will and Catherine, my dear friends. I met you at the border when you were posted as Consul in Tijuana. I was posted in San Diego, and we became the cross-border compadres. And we fight and we were advocates for the cause of both the, you know, a profound binational community that we have at the border. But, you know, I am very happy that you accept this invitation to share with us Will and Catherine. Well, Will and Catherine are in Mexico City. They're now at the embassy, and where Will is the minister. And maybe Catherine can share with us what is she doing now, because I know she's a very energetic woman, and she walks the talk. So, and of course, with Chef Saldaña, I have the pleasure to interact a few months ago, and that you are a dear colleague of me as well, because both of us are attorneys, but you became a chef, a fantastic chef. So please, Will and Catherine, Anna.
Well, thank you, and it's just great to see you as well, and all our colleagues, the other consuls as well, and hi, Rafael, and just great to see you all. And it is ironic, no, that you're in the United States and we're in Mexico, and we're talking about Dia de los Muertos. But for us, Dia de los Muertos is also very special. We first encountered it when we were in San Diego, Tijuana, but you know, norteños don't have the same feeling for it as here in central Mexico. And so we really, last year was a great opportunity for us to really see Dia de los Muertos in its full bloom. This year it's a little bit more subdued, but we've really come to appreciate it. And especially as Rafa said, you know, it connects, it's a season, right? It starts for us maybe with Halloween and all the way through Thanksgiving. So it's a day to connect across the border.
And hi, Marcela, it's so good to see you. I'm so happy to see your face. Beautiful. First, your question was about, I am working in the Embassy and American Citizen Services. My primary job at the moment is voting and elections. So this is going to be a very big week. I'm happy to start it off with a little vino from Valle de Guadalupe because it's going to be busy. For me, I started with Dia de los Muertos when I was teaching Spanish to 4th and 5th graders in Virginia, but we really didn't get into it. We just made the calaveras, we made sugar, and that was it. And then when we moved to Tijuana and I was teaching Spanish-speaking cultures in San Diego, I really kind of got more into it. And like Matt was saying, for me, it is such a beautiful holiday. It probably, after all of our travels, we've been doing this for 30 years, going to many different countries, and this is the most beautiful celebration, a holiday that I've ever seen from another culture. I love the idea that it's a celebration of life, not of passing. Of course, we mourn those who are no longer with us, but we have our little altar behind us. I don't know if you can see it. It's for my mother and my father and Will's father and his grandmother. And so we've got some whiskey and some beer and some potato chips and cookies and things for them. And we just really love celebrating this. But more than anything, we have to thank Mexico for the most important thing in our lives, and that is chocolate.
No, absolutely. One of the beautiful things about Dia de los Muertos for me, and especially, is that it connects us to the pre-Hispanic past, right? To the pre-Columbian past. And there's, thousands of years it connects us. And so when I think of Dia de los Muertos, I'm thinking about those things as well. And of course, chocolate, which I have learned just today that was a gift from Quetzalcoatl. So it takes us even further back. And thanks to Ana, I just heated up your tamales, Ana. So they look incredible. And thanks to Ana Rita for supplying the chocolate. We're very excited about that as well. And one of the things you mentioned earlier was on the way it connects the peoples of the United States and Mexico. Americans in the United States are not yet fully engaged with Dia de los Muertos, but I think Marcela, maybe you in Hollywood are helping with that. You and Del Toro, maybe, or with Live and with Coco and all those things. I think Americans are going to start adopting Dia de los Muertos very soon, and I think you should get a cut of that.
For sure. Jose?
I wanted just to say how jealous I am from the red wine of Valle de Guadalupe, the beautiful weather of my hometown, Mexico City. If I open the window right now, the Catherine, I will have the bliss of New England come and froze me inside my little apartment. So very jealous of you, and very jealous, of course. And I think red wine chocolate tamales are a great pairing for the times that are getting to your desk in the next couple of hours, I have to say. But for that, I would like to prompt Ana Saldaña to tell us, Ana, you were working with chocolate tamales, with chocolate also from Ana Rita, cacao from Tabasco, the neighboring state of Chiapas, and I have to say competing in terms of pride, who has the best cacao in there. Ana, what is your experience working once again with MUCHO?
Well, first of all,
Ana, sorry. All of us, we speak and understand Spanish pretty well. So there's someone in the audience that is asking if we can do it in Spanish. Sorry. Ana?
Hi, well, before anything, I'm so happy to be part of the celebration. Thank you so much for inviting me. This is a treat, especially to be cooking for Will and Catherine. Even though we are in the same city far away, I hope that the flavors of my kitchen can reach you, and also the flavors of my ancestors, because really I think chocolate is such a wonderful Mexican ingredient. It is our gift to the world, and the chocolate from Ana Rita, it's a treat. I told her before, using this ingredient, cooking with it, it's just like delicious. And about the recipe, well, I think when you start talking about Dia de Muertos, a lot of times there's also this part of humor, and there's also this part of how we face death. And for me, in Dia de Muertos, it's more about the food that is enticing our loved ones to come and have a meal with us again. And so we have to put their favorite treats, we have to make them things that might make them come down, but also there's a lot of symbols within our offering. We have water so that when they come back from the dead, they can drink a little bit of water because they might be thirsty. We have salt so that the salt will protect their body in the coming and going. We have incense to lure the bad spirits away. And so there's all these things about food. There's all these things about the favorite ingredients of our loved ones. But I think it's also an opportunity to just open our hearts, and even though they're not here, have them present. So it's just really a treat. And thank you so much, Consul Marcela Celorio, for this amazing reunion. And thank you, José and Ana Rita, for promoting our Mexican ingredients the way you do it.
Gracias. Es que les decía que la gente dice que si podemos hablar en español un ratito.
Perdón.
Y
bueno, hablamos en español, disculpa.
Entonces, vamos a probar tu plato, Ana.
I hope it's delicious. I don't know if Ana Rita, you could tell us a little bit about this cacao. Si nos podrías decir un poco sobre este cacao en particular.
Sí, claro. Bueno, este cacao es de una familia muy entrañable de productores, una familia por varias generaciones en la zona de Comalcalco, en Tabasco, y él fue el ganador en un certamen en el cual participamos, el FCCI y el MUCHO, que estaba enfocado a premiar a aquellos productores que trabajaran con un cuidado y un respeto por la biodiversidad. Entonces el cacao viene de una plantación maravillosa, cuidada por una familia y además con una variedad de cultivos increíble y de especies increíble. Entonces seguramente eso se refleja en el tamal que hizo mi tocaya delicioso. Pero bueno, dejemos a Catherine y a Matt decir que...
No, y si puedo explicarles a los que no están viendo qué están comiendo,
claro.
me gustaría, y sí, como dices, Ana Rita, la profundidad de este tamal, yo aquí también tengo mi tamal, me he hecho para mis seres queridos, y es un tamal que tiene ingredientes que va a hacer que todos vengan a visitarme, porque tiene la canela. Yo, igual que lo que hablan de cómo tienes la unión de México y Estados Unidos, bueno, mi mamá es americana, y entonces yo crecí con el apple pie de mi grandma, ¿no? O el pie de manzana de mi abuelita, que siempre tenía canela. Mi abuelo viene de descendencia holandesa, también norteamericano, y entonces le encantaba el chocolate, pero además hacíamos un dulce con lo que es la pasta de almendra, entonces le puse almendra. Entonces es un tamal que tiene para mis abuelos la canela, la almendra y el chocolate. Y para mi abuelita siempre nos gustaba como estos tamales dulces, suavecitos, que tenían muchas veces pasas, a veces tenían dátiles. Entonces esta vez me gustó la combinación del dátil con el tamal, entonces le pusimos tamal, y se va a terminar con una salsa de coco que a mis suegros les encantaba echarse su coco en Acapulco, y entonces pensé que tal vez con eso los podía invitar a que llegaran también mis suegros, y entonces se le pone lo que es la salsa de coco encima al tamal, y tiene ralladura de chocolate para que así otra vez podamos probar al chocolate en su máxima expresión terminando y con unas gotitas, bueno, espolvoreado con sal, que para mí siempre esa combinación de la sal y el chocolate es algo que me encanta, ¿no?
Thank you so much, Anna. And for English viewers that are looking at this and I'm like, am I missing the recipe? Do not worry, recipes will be forthcoming. And I have to say that looking at that wine tamal pairing, it's not helping with the New England cold over here in the other side of the United States. I wanted to thank Will, Catherine, and Anna for sharing this experience with us, for celebrating this binational dialogue with what, and I will say, what better, as Will said, with something that we share such a common history, that it's chocolate. Buen provecho to all of you three. And I want, Ana Rita, take us, let's buckle our seatbelts and let's go back to now my corner of the United States, New England. Ana Rita, please.
Muchas gracias, Will. ¿De dónde es el vino? ¿De Valle de Guadalupe?
Sí, es viñedo de la reina.
Viñedo de la reina es selección de tintos, Cabernet, Malbec y Tannat. Entonces, todos los sabores hacen un maridaje perfecto con el tamal.
Sí.
Los extraño.
Por los tamales. Muchísimas gracias. Tiene el sabor de amor, tradición y de México.
Salud.
Bueno, yo quisiera, también muero de antojo y se me hace agua la boca con este tamal, que además es una evocación familiar que hizo mi tocaya Ana, pero me hace pensar, y no olvidemos que el Día de Muertos es un patrimonio intangible de la humanidad. Entonces, Ana combinó dos elementos cruciales de la cocina mexicana, que es otro patrimonio intangible de la humanidad de UNESCO, que son el maíz y el cacao. Entonces, felicidades, tocaya, por eso. Y pensé también, cuando estaba hablando Catherine de sus días como profesora en Virginia, que allá hay una obra también importantísima de patrimonio de la humanidad que es Monticello, ¿no? Entonces, pensemos también en Jefferson y cómo en estas dos naciones tienen estos tesoros que son no solo patrimonio de todo el continente americano, sino de toda la humanidad. Entonces, bueno, pues una gran celebración de Día de Muertos con el maíz y el cacao.
Gracias, Ana Rita. Well, I am going to mix Spanish and English because there are a lot of viewers that are asking us to speak in Spanish. So, but now I am delighted to introduce to you our dear consul in Boston, Alberto Fierro. As you know, we diplomats are all-terrain. But if someone is really, knowledgeable about Mexican culture, that is Alberto Fierro. There's no one else at the Mexican diplomacy. So I am very, very happy to be with him, and also with Chef Bauman, that I already told her that I love the pairing between red wine and chocolate. Alberto.
Thank you so much, Marcela, for inviting us to be part of this celebration. The Day of the Dead is the most syncretic Mexican tradition, as some have already mentioned, because it mixes elements of the Aztec beliefs in how they would pass to the underworld, and with the Catholic tradition. And as Rafael mentioned earlier, it is a harvest celebration as well as Thanksgiving. Since 2003, the indigenous celebration of the Day of the Dead became part of UNESCO's intangible heritage patrimony. When I was a kid, my family would go, my father would go to the cemetery and put flowers, and yes, we would buy calaveras de azúcar, and I love the bread of the Day of the Dead, and we would all, the 5 siblings, would fight to eat the little bones outside. That were the best part of it. But it was not an urban celebration. The celebration was in rural communities mostly. As a sociologist, when I was finished university, I worked in rural communities, and I was able to see those fantastic parties at the cemeteries, and how from the houses they would put the path with marigold to show from the house to the cemetery, so the souls would be able to find their way. But in the 80s, it became in Mexico an urban and also urban tradition, and not only from central Mexico. It started, I worked for the Ministry of Culture then, and it was, there was a big program called Conserva tus Tradiciones. And that's when schools, museums, institutions started to put altars and offerings for the Day of the Dead. And what is amazing is that it does really show how culture is alive. As we know with Coco or with a James Bond film several years ago, for example, a parade that was put in that film didn't exist in Mexico City, and now it does. So it changed. So it has been incorporating elements of Halloween, but it has also now it is celebrated in many cities in the United States. I was amazed in the amount of celebrations in Minnesota when I was consul there. And here in Boston, you see the altar behind me that was at Franklin Park on Saturday and Sunday. And there was an invitation from the city of Boston to receive photographs of beloved people. And there were more than 500 people sending their photographs, and they were part of this celebration.
That's amazing, maravilloso. Todas esas fotografías de sus seres queridos en Boston, en el parque y con la primera nevada. Felicidades, Consul. Qué bien, mi querido Alberto.
Gracias. And then we had the Peabody Museum at Harvard also celebrated yesterday. Everything had to be virtual, but there was a 1 hour very interesting program with music. As it has said here, chocolate and food is fundamental, but also music is, because it's a celebration of life. It's you have to have it. There's a cultural center called Veronica Robles that had a parade in cars this time, and also a virtual ceremony. And students of Emerson College decided to do a contest of calaveritas. Calaveritas are poems usually written about politicians or your colleagues, and it's a rhymed poem mentioning that you are already dead, or certain person is already dead, and making like jokes about that person, that person's life. For example, this morning in almost every newspaper, Mexico published calaveritas about the president, about the ministers, about the ambassador in the US. Rafael Laveaga, the consul, just shared with me a beautiful calavera that he wrote for the ambassador. So that's also part of the tradition.
And I want to say, and without saying much pride of being the constituent of Alberto and good friend of the chef that I'm about to introduce, that in New England we have a non-negotiable aspect of our culinary traditions, which is generosity. And I have to tell you, Laura Bauman shows up to my house yesterday with not only goodies for Alberto, as we can see showing on your screens, but for the entire consular mission. So I was Uber Eats yesterday, or Instacart, delivering her creation to all our mission, all our heroes and heroines from the consulate. Laura, thank you so much for agreeing to work now with a very particular chocolate. It's the only cocoa powder in the world that it's single origin and Mexico origin. So literally, Laura was working with a very particular cocoa powder available here in the United States from our friends of Good Now Farms. Laura, what inspired you to create this dessert? Welcome.
Hello. Well, first, I just want to say it's a huge privilege and honor to be part of this event. Thank you, Jose and Alberto and all of the hosts. I'm so thrilled to learn more about this holiday and to be a part of this virtual event. And I was so excited to work with Good Now Farms cocoa powder from from Boston, outside Boston, and it's such a huge privilege to work with a cocoa powder that is coming all the way from cacao in Mexico. And, I don't get to work with such beautiful products all the time in my baking. And so it makes such a difference in the final product. And I think that we're so lucky to get to work with something coming right from Massachusetts. And so I chose to make whoopie pies, which are kind of native to New England, and also just a huge part of my own family tradition, something my grandmother made for every holiday growing up, and something I now make for most of my catered events. And I wanted to make it for this special holiday and celebration. So what I decided to do is make our cookies, which I gave Jose all of the whoopie pies, and so I don't even have anything here to show you. But I made the cookies with the cocoa powder from Goodnow Farms, and then the buttercream actually has some Goodnow Farms chocolate that I actually had whipped into the buttercream with, Jose, you'll have to help me. I don't want to say it wrong. Yes, and
and it gives it really a very, very subtle taste. I am not a sweet tooth person, but I loved the mix of the chocolate and this cream that the taste of piloncillo comes after as an aftertaste. And I thought it was so subtle and nice, Laura.
Thank you. I think that it adds this really nice molasses forward flavor that is also so traditional to New England desserts and the flavor profile of New England, especially in the fall, winter weather. And I think that it worked beautifully with this cocoa powder that was very floral and aromatic and something that you just don't find from a commercial product, which is what I'm typically working with. Even though I'm sourcing higher quality ingredients for my business, it's rare that I get to use such a boutique product for dessert.
I know that Laura has been debating a name because most of her colleagues want to continue selling this product, Consul Alberto. So I don't know if it should be Whoopie Pie Mexican Consul or Whoopie Pie Jose, but we will need to have a meeting in the consulate via Zoom to define that very important part of our bilateral agenda with the New England people. I wanted to say, beyond that, Laura, what is this that inspires something for Dia de Muertos? What was the inspiration of Dia de Muertos for this particular dessert?
Absolutely. I think what I was saying before is I've heard so much about this event from you through our time in school together, and I think that it's just such a beautiful celebration. And most of my ties to baking specifically is through my family, and whoopie pies, like I said, were something that my grandmother always made and continues to make for holidays. And for me, it's such a special treat and something that really is tied to my family. And so I thought that it would be the perfect dessert for this celebration.
So the verdict is that it's not a sweet and you like it. I was worried, Consul Alberto Fierro, because you and I both share perhaps despicable like for peanut butter cups and American confection of not the highest quality. But if I can point the guilt to someone that makes me not only eat better but eat New England better, well, it's Laura. Anything you would like to add today? I will start with you, Laura, and then I will go to Alberto. Anything you would like to add to say to our viewers?
Well, I just want to thank you all again for allowing me to be a part of this. And it's making me even more eager to travel to Mexico during this time to learn more about this holiday with you, Jose.
Thank you so much, Laura. It's always a pleasure. Consul, anything you would like to add?
I was able to share with all my team this morning this delicious dessert, and everybody qualified it as fantastic. So thank you so much, Laura. And it's great that the celebration is growing and growing, and that we are making it grow also with this program. So thank you so much, and Rita, Jose, and Marcela for the invitation.
Thank you so much, Alberto. And Rita, it's very cold up here in New England. Why don't you take us somewhere warmer now?
Well, it's Mexico City is very beautiful with very clear blue skies, but kind of chilly too, I have to tell you, José. So está frescón. Y me gustó mucho lo que describió el cónsul Fierro, Alberto, de cómo se ha ido transformando esta tradición de Día de Muertos y cómo otra vez el evento que estamos haciendo hoy es una capa más que se suma a toda esta tradición tan grande y cómo ha cambiado de los 80s a lo que es hoy en día a través del cine, a través de las recetas y bueno, la interpretación de Laura con el piloncillo me hace pensar que en New England se suma a la tradición mexicana con un platillo tan tradicional de ellos y con una costumbre tan nuestra, ¿no? Y me hace pensar también en los estudiantes, José. En el momento en que yo pienso en Boston y en Cambridge, mi mente se va a ello y bueno, va para todos los estudiantes un pensamiento de solidaridad y apoyo y bueno, de búsqueda de nuevas maneras de celebrar el Día de Muertos ahora este año. Y bueno, pues vámonos ya a Texas.
Exacto. Y bueno, para empezar con Texas, estaba diciendo nuestro cónsul Alberto Fierro de las calaveritas. Y esta es, por ejemplo, calaverita de fuego para Marcela Celorio. Entonces, lo estoy diciendo esto en español para aquellos que no pudieron escuchar al cónsul. Es aquella, se trata de hacer una broma de cómo es que te vas al otro mundo, pero estás todavía vivo, ¿no? Entonces es muy divertido y como dice, hacen calaveritas de todas las personalidades, de tus colegas y de todo. Así es que aquí la Catrina se subleva y a la cónsul le quiere dar fuego. Pero bueno, mi querido cónsul Francisco de la Torre en Dallas, un gustazo. Tú estás ahora sí que el más privilegiado porque no tienes un solo chef, sino tienes tres chefs. Así es que cuéntanos, querido cónsul Paco, ¿cómo estás viviendo tú en Dallas esta celebración tan maravillosa del Día de los Muertos?
Muchas gracias, Marcela. Para empezar, I switch to English or I stay in Spanish?
Both. You can switch both.
Great. Thank you so much. I think that this event is wonderful for showcasing the marvelous world of chocolate and our traditions. And I think I'm absolutely convinced that Dia de los Muertos is not anymore a Mexican tradition. It began in Mexico, but it became exactly the mainstream in the United States. And from there, it's going worldwide. So we're doing many things here. We got great chocolatiers. I'm very proud that I'm the only one that's having 3 chocolatiers in this event. And talking about the things we've been doing in Dia de Muertos, 4 things precise. The first one, un concurso de calaveritas. Por supuesto, asociados con la Cámara de Comercio México-Estados Unidos, hay un concurso de calaveritas. 2, un parade con LULAC, organizado por LULAC, que fue el día de ayer en las calles del centro de Dallas. Tercero, un concierto maravilloso. Dallas Symphony Orchestra offered a wonderful Dia de Muertos concert with Mexican classical music last Sunday. It was huge, amazing. And por supuesto la ofrenda. Tenemos una ofrenda de Día de Muertos aquí. Tenemos un artista yucateco que se llama Miguel Martín que hace catrinas gigantes. Gigantes, probablemente no tamaño Texas, pero sí gigantes porque son más de 2,5 metros y las tenemos expuestas aquí en el consulado. Esa es una parte. La otra parte de cómo celebramos, Marcela, querida embajadora, es a través de nuestras tradiciones chocolateras. Y aquí es donde ya empezamos a hablar de Andrea, de Cindy y por supuesto de Cristal. ¿José?
Yo no quiero hacer más intervención. I don't want to do more intervention. I would like to say, Consul, that the problem with New England, or maybe the advantage in this case, is that there is one Mexican that knows about chocolate. There's one Mexican that teaches at Harvard. There's one Mexican that teaches at MIT. The problem with Dallas is that they come by the dozen. Vienen de la docena. Yo quisiera abrir con esto el trío de grandes personalidades que nos acompañan el día de hoy. The trio of great personalities joining us from the kitchen side. I would like to thank Andrea and Cindy from Coco André, Cristal from the Virgin Hotel Dallas. Bienvenidas. Explíquenos qué es lo que crearon. What did you create for this celebration?
Bueno, muchísimas gracias por la presentación. Y hemos preparado, yo soy Andrea Pedraza, fundadora de Coco André Chocolatier here en Dallas, chocolatería y horchatería este año. Así que hacemos bean to bar, tenemos muchas diferentes cosas que estamos trabajando, pero nuestra especialidad pues son las trufas. Y hoy les voy a presentar una trufa que incluye el otro ingrediente de México que México ha dado al mundo, el mezcal. Mezcal y tequila, agave, maguey, son variedades solamente, así que tenemos aquí trufas hechas con mezcal y con tequila.
Y están deliciosas, perdón que lo diga, they are delicious. Someone tasted this before and they were just like, I can't believe the taste about these truffles. ¿Y cómo llegaron a eso? ¿Cómo se les ocurrió? ¿Es receta suya? Por favor, dime, Cindy, this is your recipe or how you got to this?
Dejamos que Cindy se presente y regreso y le explico cómo salimos con la receta esta.
Hola, buenas tardes. Yo soy Cindy Pedraza, hija de Andrea y administradora por Coco André y le ayudo en lo que pueda a mi madre. Y nuestro chocolate, para nosotros el Día de los Muertos es muy significativo porque nuestra familia lo ha celebrado por 11 años aquí en Oak Cliff y ha sido parte de nuestra comunidad ya por 11 años y luego hasta ahora estoy enseñándole a mi niña chiquita las tradiciones. Entonces, es un placer estar aquí con ustedes.
For the people outside Dallas, Oak Cliff, it's the Hispanic neighborhood, the traditional Hispanic neighborhood. Es el corazón que late de Dallas y es hispano. Perdón que lo diga, pero así es. Por favor, adelante. Cristal, ¿ibas a hablar también?
My turn. For me, like my family grew up in Oak Cliff, so yeah, you are correct. Like this is 100% like the part of like the Hispanic culture in Dallas. Talking about how chocolate brings people together, and especially during COVID-19. Crazy enough, like me and Andrea, we met like in February at a chocolate event. So we were pulling out to Washington D.C. and we spent the week just learning about chocolate, and that's what brought us together. So for me, it was such a pleasure to be a part of this event, and especially to use Coco André chocolate for the first time. So it was really amazing. So I really just wanted to showcase really what they're doing here, because these guys are like the dream, like to not only a family, but also just coming here, like being from Latin American descent, it just really like brings joy to my heart, and like I feel like they embody really what this is about, like what Dia de los Muertos is about. And yeah, I'm glad to be here.
Thank you.
Cristal, pero no nos dijiste, ¿qué hiciste hoy? ¿Qué nos presentaste el día de hoy?
What I made with their stuff. So I actually did chocolate and horchata tart because they also are an horchateria, which has like gotten them through COVID, which is amazing. So inside is a 85 and 60% chocolate tart. Has a horchata cream, and then for me, I love mango and tamarind. So it has a mango and a tamarindo patisserie that goes around it, and some marigolds just to honor the Day of the Dead, and honor this holiday and this culture.
I gotta tell you something. There's an urban legend here in Dallas that Hispanic or Mexican American or Mexican descent chocolatiers serve chocolates in the White House. Is this true or not, Cindy?
So we've been invited to the White House twice in our 10-year run of owning Coco André. My mom was fortunate to be a speaker as an immigrant mother from Mexico. We were extremely honored that she was able to walk the halls of the White House and sit, 3 feet away from President Obama and his staff. So we were really excited for that opportunity, and we're just glad we always say that chocolate has opened so many doors for us, and we're just ready to see what the next steps are for us.
Así que no es una leyenda urbana, fue real.
No,
Nos da mucho gusto. Nos da muchísimo gusto. Let me share with you something that I just discovered about a year ago. I have it here. In the Merriam-Webster dictionary of the English language, there are 8 words in Nahuatl. I don't know if you knew this, but here are the words: chocolate, coyote, avocado, tomato, chile, ocelote, ajolotle y chipotle. La más mencionada y la más buscada en el diccionario Merriam-Webster es chocolate. Chocolate es una palabra, no solamente el producto, el cacao, sino la palabra, la utilizan en todo el mundo y nace en México. Para nosotros también es un orgullo. Dime algo, Cristal, por favor. How you decided to become chocolatier? Why? You're from Dallas, you're from Hispanic descent. How you choose to remember something? You worked with Disney, and then you became chocolatier. How you did that?
So for me, it all started with my family. I always loved making cakes, and I always loved doing pastries for just my family, just one thing after another. So I would actually make cakes for my nephews and nieces when they were growing up. And then I came to a crossroads in my career early on where I had to decide which way I wanted to go. And, food always brings people together. And that's really what made me choose this and what I'm doing now. So it's been a wonderful career that I've had over the past 10 years to be able to work at the places I have and do the things that I've done, but also meet the wonderful people that this industry really has opened doors in that sense. So meet people like Cindy and Andrea and do things like this where you're not only just getting to know people, but becoming friends and family together to do things like this. So I came over here because it was what's the point of doing 2 different Zooms when we all know each other and we can do it all together? So it's a really great and wonderful thing that we're a part of. Yeah.
Me he comido el micrófono, José, Ana Rita, y no sé si quieres preguntar algo, si quieren intervenir o no.
No, I just have to say that the best displays, the best conduction has, and I don't want to make anybody jealous because there's already so much to be jealous about, the enormous amount of pastries that you have, Consul. But this display, this conduction, this familiarity, I don't even want to intervene. I have to say, I have to make that known in there. I don't want to make a commercial, which is you, Consul, in Dallas are very also lucky because once a year, the Dallas Chocolate Festival, I know one of our colleagues, Emily Manto, is listening over here, happens in Mexico. And I want to point out to another person guilty of it, which is Ana Rita García Lascurain, who diligently always participates. So I don't know what's about Boston and with Dallas, but there might be a chocolate rivalry coming up soon, and I'm very happy for that.
Yo quiero decir algo también, que es el placer, ahorita que hablaron Cristal y Cindy, y sobre todo placer y respeto por Andrea, que es esta chocolatera experta. I had the privilege of visiting their atelier last year. It's a beautiful house, and she's an amazing woman that needs to be recognized, both in Mexico as well as in the United States. Entonces es un placer verlas nuevamente. Y felicidades por esos platillos que desde luego nos tienen ya envidiosísimos, Paco, que tienes, estoy de acuerdo, toda esa abundancia de la generosidad y el talento brillante de estas mujeres. Entonces, mis saludos hasta Dallas, a las colegas y todo lo mejor en el día.
Te extrañamos, querida.
Gracias, Paco.
Nos faltaste este año. Yo quiero decirles a todos que también es un orgullo tener cada año aquí a Ana Rita, que viene con un display enorme de productos mexicanos y a poner muy alto el chocolate mexicano a través del museo. Así que, Rita, te extrañamos. Espero que cambie el año que entre esta circunstancia. And something else, José, and this is important. You were telling us that there are many Mexicans in Dallas. Yeah, many Mexicans, because Mexicans, when we send our people, we send the best. And that's the truth. Y Dallas es un ejemplo de ello. Pero no todas son chocolateras, José. No todas tienen la calidad ni la cantidad que tienen Andrea, Cindy y Cristal, de las cuales estamos orgullosísimos. Quiero contarles una anécdota muy breve y muy rápida que me sucedió a mí casi entrando a la diplomacia. Yo era un jovencísimo agregado cultural, semiagregado porque había otro, y estaba yo en Brasil y me tocó montar un altar de muertos en el Ministerio de Cultura. So here I am, a young diplomat with dreams, doing this altar in the culture minister in Brazil, the year 99. So it was very easy for me to think that honoring the Minister of Culture of Brazil, I should put a wonderful chocolate skull with the name Francisco. His name was Francisco. He was my tocayo. So everything was settled. The Mexican ambassador told me it's a great altar. This is great for the Brazilians. Here it comes, the culture minister. He comes out and he sees the skull, the chocolate skull, and I explain the altar and I say, this is for you, minister. This is an homage for you in your honor. Everybody stops talking. They look at each other and he tells me, are you telling me that skull, it's for me? Yes, it's for you. It's an honor. Okay, stop this. We stop everything here. Please stop the cameras. I can't understand this. And I'm not a skull. I am alive. Just imagine the diplomatic situation I had. It was a wonderful situation. I had to explain things. The ambassador had to explain things. And the point is that we have different cultures, completely different cultures. The celebration of the Day of the Dead is about life, but we have to explain sometimes we have to explain this, and in other cultures, no. And again, I finish with the things I began with. The point here is that Dia de los Muertos is now in the mainstream in the United States. So we're doing things better together, United States and Mexico. Y un ejemplo clarísimo es en materia de chocolates de ambos lados de la frontera. ¿Coincides o no coincides, mi querido José?
Yo coincido, creo que Ana Rita coincide. Lo que sí es, vamos a dejar tarea. Yo como profesorando, como docente en una universidad, as a teacher in a university, I would like to leave some homework to Cindy, to Andrea, also to Cristal, and to our diplomats. Ever since López Portillo visited the White House for a state dinner, the President of the United States has never offered chocolate in the menu for the White House gala. I think if Andrea and Cindy have already been there, we need to, at the next time our president comes to the United States, there should be not only a chocolate dessert, but a chocolate dessert for every time they have missed to put chocolate for a Mexican head of state. That's a homework I want to leave for the Dallas team.
Very good idea, and we're in. Thank you so much for the time. Yo no sé, Cindy, Andrea o Cristal, si quieren cerrar con algo. ¿Quieren hacer un final remark?
Please, por favor, Cindy, Andrea, nos encantaría escucharlas.
Muchas gracias por invitarnos. Y yo quería invitarlos también que vinieran al nuestro Día de los Muertos, celebración que tenemos ahora en la noche. Si viven aquí cerquitas, de las 5 hasta las 10 de la tarde tenemos un evento grandísimo aquí en la tienda. Ya he tenido 11 años. Y ahora se lo paso a Andrea y Cristal.
Pues, ¿qué le puedo decir? Súper agradecida por la oportunidad de poder compartir esta celebración que para nosotros es tan especial. Como dice nuestro cónsul, hay que entender nuestra cultura para poder apreciar eso. Y sí, pues para nosotros es un honor tener nuestra calaverita con el nombre y todo. Pero compartimos este cacao de Chiapas, que es una maravilla, el de Tabasco igual. No son mejores, son diferentes. Yo siempre les digo, excelente cacao tenemos en México, solamente son diferentes sabores, diferentes los sabores, las variedades, los varietales que tenemos. Excelente cacao que tenemos y para eso estamos aquí, para seguir promoviendo nuestra cultura y nuestro cacao mexicano. Y lo resistentes y lo flexibles y lo acomodables que somos nosotros cuando la situación se pone difícil y hay que sacar lo mejor que tenemos, lo mejor de nosotros mismos y ser creativos y reinventarnos. Y ahí tenemos nuestra horchata que salvó el verano.
Cristal.
Thank you. Such an honor to be a part of this celebration, such an honor to be a part of this wonderful event that's celebrating our culture, especially during these times in COVID where it's really hard to connect, but I'm so grateful for everyone who brought this and got this all together, because without it, like, we would never have this conversation. We would never know this about each other, and like, we would never have this interaction. So I'm really, really grateful, and I thank you so much for all of this. I hope you enjoy.
Gracias, José, Ana Rita querida, embajadora querida, gracias por la invitación. Dallas se hizo presente.
Gracias a ti.
Los mejores embajadores no somos nosotros, son los mexicanos y las mexicanas que chambean aquí en Dallas, como ellos.
I don't know how we can compete with that presentation, Ana Rita, but I have one shot, which is, why don't we go back to the place that brought us together to do a closing of this celebration of life? Thank you, Francisco. Thank you, Cindy, Andrea, Cristal, Ana Rita. What should we do? Should we hit the California road?
No, vámonos a California y vamos a darle la palabra a nuestra anfitriona estrella, Marcela. Thank you so much for making this happen. I am in awe of what you do constantly for Mexican culture, y eres una representante maravillosa de los mexicanos en California, que es tan poderoso para toda la cultura de los dos países. Entonces, todo el agradecimiento, todo el respeto y un gran bravo por juntarnos en este día y lograr esta ceremonia tan bellísima. Entonces, va para ti la palabra, y seguro tienes muchas cosas que decirnos de todo lo que está pasando y lo que ha pasado en Los Ángeles en torno a este día tan especial de muertos.
Muchísimas gracias, Ana Rita. And we're going to switch to English because Chef Patricia Tsai, she speaks English, and then we want to really get to know her. And I don't know why you chose, because this is a team effort, Jose, Ana Rita, but Chef Patricia Tsai, I really feel privileged to have her on my side here in Los Angeles. She really is wonderful. I was reading her bio, and well, she started a quest, and I can say now that we're celebrating Dia de los Muertos, a soul quest to see who she was earlier when she finished her career. And I identify myself with her, because that's why I became a diplomat. When I'm an attorney, but when I finished my career, I started a quest, a soul quest. And then I traveled in Europe, and I found out that I really praise this cosmopolitan ambiance, and that's why I feel so privileged to be able to represent my country. But let's hear about Chef Tsai, how she started this quest in my country, and I feel so privileged, Chef.
Yes, thank you so much for inviting me, and my journey is very, very unusual. I'm not going to get into the full detail, but you can see a wonderful video of my journey, which really started in the middle of nowhere in the United States. I obviously am not Mexican, but I have embraced the Mexican culture, and I have partnered up with a wonderful mentor, Vicente Gutierrez in Tabasco, Mexico. And so he has been through this journey with me for 10 years. He owns Cassette Chocolates. You must be familiar with him. But, you know, I found my job solace. I worked in corporate accounting and finance, and really figured out what I needed to do to be passionate about something. And when I went to Oaxaca, Mexico, I found out that they enjoyed chocolate in a completely different way. I was used to going to New York City, seeing all the beautiful truffles, and really enjoying the mastery and artistry of what chocolatiers were doing. But when I went to Oaxaca, it was a completely different experience. They were drinking chocolate, and you can see the cacao nibs going through the grinder. And I said, this is what chocolate is. So fast forward, I figured out how to make a hobby into a business. It's certainly taken about like 15 years. You can certainly ask Vicente. It's been like this father-daughter relationship of frustration, of really figuring out, you know, what story am I trying to tell here in Los Angeles? Because a lot of people here do not drink chocolate, but they understand a chocolate bar. For me, the mission was to really think about what is the story of chocolate, not look at it from a European perspective, but go further back in history to how the Mayans enjoyed chocolate many thousands of years ago. And if I look at that history is that it was used in ceremony and it was used as strength, as Mayan soldiers would drink chocolate before they would fight. So here at Choco Vivo, we have a drinking station where people can customize their drinking chocolate. It's reflective of how people drink chocolate around the world, from a sipping chocolate to a frozen hot chocolate. And then on this side over here that you can't see, this is where we make all of our chocolate from bean to bar, but we stone grind everything. And then right back here, you can see all of the bars of chocolate. We make 13 different kinds of flavors. So I really look at chocolate as chocolate is food, it is not confection or candy. And so what I'm presenting to you are little tapas and dishes of what I think about chocolate. Not necessarily dessert. We make brownies, we make cookies here, but what I really presented was I wanted to give you something that was very different.
Thank you so much, Chef. And I really like the way that you put it, that chocolate is not a candy, it's food. And so we have to recognize the chocolate as such as. And I was thinking, about Dia de los Muertos and Altar de Muertos. And, there is a human solidarity about death because all of us, we're going to die someday. And I want my people, or the ones that care and love me, to put an altar de muerto that our consuls were explaining in Washington, D.C. and in Boston. In this altar de muerto, I would like to have chocolate, this food, with a glass of wine, a red wine, and in a mole. So I am very happy that you gave me this menu, and I have a lot of things to eat. And first, and thank you, Chef, you are very generous and very kind. This Dia de Muertos Gastro-Altar 2020 is a menu especially for Marcela Celorio. So really, I feel very privileged. And the first thing that I'm gonna try is the vegan pozole with cacao broth and nixtamal purple mushito corn from Michoacan. What about that?
Yes. So we're fortunate here to be in Los Angeles and working with so many artisanal bakers and people that can really bring the beauty of Mexico here. So the vegan pozole that you can see, I started with heirloom corn right here. You can see it's kind of a little bit hard to see, but this is coming from Michoacan. And then what I did was I used the whole nixtamal process. And so I, put calcium, cal inside, and then made it into hominy. But the beauty of this vegan pozole is that we didn't add any meat because I know that cacao beans is about 40 to 50% natural fat. So with cacao beans, what I did with this is that I roasted the cacao beans and then I ground it up and then I boiled it for about an hour. And then I let it sit for a couple of days to let those flavors absorb. And then in typical pozole, you have Mexican oregano, and I added 2 onions and some tomato in there to give it more depth and flavor. So I did that for about another couple of days. So all in all, this whole process was about a 5-day process to really let those flavors come together. And so the base is a cacao bean broth. And even if you were just to make it super simple and just roast the cacao beans, boil them for about an hour and then strain the cacao beans to make a very clear broth. Even in just my culture of adding some sesame oil, some sea salt, and some green onions, it's so beautifully, it's just a beautiful broth with a depth of flavor that has no meat inside because chocolate is 40 to 50% natural fat.
Wow, it's fantastic. As you can see, I have been eating, but I have another treat. So the nixtamal chocolate tamales drizzled with farmer's market hachia persimmon sauce.
Yes. So right now we're about in November. So you can see some persimmons that are at the farmer's market. So what is beautiful about these tamales is that I used the purple mosquito corn, and then I used the nixtamal process. And then what I did was that I ground the corn through our stone grinder, because what we do is we stone grind cacao nibs to make it into bars of chocolate. But first I had to stone grind the corn, and then I couldn't stone grind the cacao nibs together because the process is a little different. When you grind the corn, you have to add water. We know chocolate and water don't really mix together. So I had to do two separate processes, grind the cacao, then grind the corn. And then I took the cacao, the bars of chocolate, and mixed it into the masa dough. And then I made it into tamales. Typically tamales, you will have to add some lard or some oil inside. But because we know chocolate is 40 to 50% natural fat, what you are tasting in terms of moistness is that fat from cacao. The type of chocolate that I used in here was our Mayan tradition chocolate. So you taste some cinnamon, a little bit of chilies, and almonds that are all ground in together.
Really, this is wonderful. You know, we had a conversation about chocolate with Jose and Rita and Ana as well. We were talking about how the pre-Hispanic world, with you know, it was not the sugar added, and maybe it was like a chili. So I had this feeling that with this, it has this sense of chili, and it tastes wonderful.
Yeah, there's a little bit, a hint of spice to it. And the point of the persimmon sauce is just to add another element or another layer of flavor, because I have found working with chocolate is that persimmons and chocolate work really well together. So in the persimmon sauce, there is no added sugar. It's just the natural sugar from persimmons, from those particular persimmons called Haichia persimmons. So those are the ones that have to be super ripe, where you just peel off the outside of the skin if you want to, but they have to be really, really ripe. Otherwise, if you eat them unripe, then you kind of have a pucker in your mouth.
Wow. Well, there's another one. I have a vegan chocolate pudding with Creole Cacao Beans from Chiapas. Just take a look at this.
Yes, so this particular one is most of the chocolate that was used in the first two dishes, that is chocolate from Vicente's farm in Tabasco, because that farm, the name of the farm is Jesus Maria. But I was so lucky enough to go to Chiapas last year to visit Rayen Cooperative. It was a beautiful experience. So I actually have some of their Criollo cacao nibs that I ground into chocolate. So you can tell that when I made this into a liquid, because we have something called a sipping chocolate here at Choco Vivo. And what I tell people is if you can't drink the whole sipping chocolate, put it in the refrigerator because it will turn out like pudding, just like this. I forgot to make this right before I left the shop last night. So I actually had to come back at midnight to make this so that it could solidify in time and just so that it could get into a pudding state. And so I didn't want to take any chances. So this had been sitting in the refrigerator for probably about like 9 hours, but you can see like the thickness and the richness of Criollo beans is just really amazing.
Never had such a taste before. And I am Mexican. I am a chocolate lover. This is fantastic, really. Thank you so much. And last, I will become greedy, you know, like, oh my God, this is the last one. I need more. But
I am glad we waited until this time. So it was almost dinner time in Los Angeles because you're having a full meal, Marcela.
Yes. Here is the Mayan tradition hot chocolate with Trinitario beans from Tabasco, Mexico.
Yes, so the juxtaposition of a pudding, now you're going to drink a hot chocolate. So in the hot chocolate, this is your traditional hot chocolate that you drink for Dia de Muertos. It is what, in terms of in America, how people drink chocolate, it is that amount of liquid versus what you just had in a pudding. If we were to heat this up, this would be called a sipping chocolate. If you were to come into Choco Vivo and you were to order something warm, your two choices are your hot chocolate or your sipping chocolate. So in this particular hot chocolate that you're drinking, that has your 3 types of chilies that we put in there. We added almonds and then traditional Ceylon cinnamon sticks. and then a little bit of salt. And we just ground it all through the stone grinder. And so that is our most popular chocolate to melt down into a drinking chocolate. And we sell that as a chocolate bar and also as drinking chocolate.
And no sugar added.
There is a little bit of sugar added in there. You're probably about a 70% cacao.
Wow, it's fantastic. Thank you so much, Chef. Look, all these products, the chocolate butter and the cacao powder with no sugar. So we should, encourage more people to get to know that chocolate is food, not a candy, and they shouldn't be afraid. If you add sugar, then the problems start. But this is fantastic, and this is such a fantastic way to celebrate Dia de los Muertos. Thank you so much. I don't know, Jose and Rita, the experts, what do you think about all this fantastic food that Chef brought me?
Bueno, I am in awe, Patricia, of what you've done. I am also an admirer of Vicente Gutierrez. And 10 years ago, when we first started the MUCHO Museum, he was very generous, and throughout all these years, as you know, he's a pillar of Mexican cacao culture and a very committed individual, and just like a reference for everybody working in Mexico, and I can see also in the US. Now, as of what you did, I can't stand, my mouth is just absolutely watering. Your use of the textures, the flavor, and your understanding of Mexican cacao in its richest and most exquisite way makes me want to travel to LA and go try all of these dishes. So many congratulations. Looking forward to meeting you and to trying everything that you just described today. And bueno, bravo. Felicidades for what you just presented to Marcela.
I'm not trying to add to the panel of Master Chef here, Patricia, but I also wanted to thank you. Marcela made a pause, I imagine, because she was mesmerized by the flavors of your cuisine. And it's like, we should, and I think what we should do is share. It's like, that's what I think, I'm hoping Marcela will say, just because I can see that the flavor have in the excellent diplomat Marcela is representing our country with all of you. And I also want to thank you, Patricia, standing not as an ambassador of Mexico, but just looking at our cacao and chocolate industry, for taking a bet on Mexico. You are one of the rarest companies that use basically for their entire brand a Mexican product. And I'm pretty sure Eder from Rayen and Vicente Gutierrez Casep from Casep are listening to this recording, and they will feel very proud that someone has basically branded their entire existence, their entire flavor portfolio, and have guests such as Marcela, and hopefully one day Ana Rita and I, really tasting what my country can do in the streets of Los Angeles. I want to make a question to Marcela before we leave. Marcela, you have been representing Mexico in Israel, in New York, where I had the particular privilege of being your constituent as I'm Alberto's today, and now in California, first in San Diego, and then in Los Angeles, the most important city for Mexico outside Mexico. How do we celebrate Day of the Dead there?
Well, we have been celebrating the Dia de los Muertos with a contest. We started a quest for the best pan de muerto in Los Angeles. We already have the winners, and we're very happy that we can attest that the pan de muerto, has been made here in Los Angeles. There were a lot of enthusiasm. And then this morning, I had a virtual exhibition of photograph exhibition with Tomás Casademunt, that is Mexicano ya, but he was born in Spain, and he was traveling in Mexico for 8 years, and he took photos of all the altars in Guerrero, Michoacán, Puebla, Oaxaca, Yucatan, and he was telling us about how different the altars are in these states. And for example, like William Ostick said, in el norte de Mexico, you don't have this tradition, but in the center and south, you have it. How different is Yucatan, the altars in Yucatan from the ones that you can have in Oaxaca or in Puebla. So, and Of course, every year we participate with Hollywood Forever, the cemetery that congregates many people, thousands of people. I remember last year, I don't know how many people were there. I think 5,000, 7,000 people gathered to celebrate. And something that really encourages me is about, you know, this understanding from Americans and Mexicans about our celebrations. And my colleagues were saying at the beginning, Rafael, Alberto, Paco, William and Catherine, they were saying about this end of the harvest, and for us, the Dia de los Muertos and Thanksgiving, and in such a way that Americans praise Thanksgiving, and we Mexicans praise Dia de los Muertos. Now I praise Thanksgiving, and they are praising and start appreciating Dia de los Muertos. So that's all about, you know, this is what we want. We want this cross-cultural understanding, and I think that we're doing, you know, taking steps in the right direction.
I have 4 questions pending, and thanking Patricia and Marcela for their time. I wonder if Will and Catherine finished that bottle of wine. I wonder if our friend Francisco de la Torre has anything in front of him anymore. Same question goes to Rafael Laveaga. And I don't know if Alberto Fierro still has any goodies that Laura prepared. Why don't we invite them back on the screen?
Yes, if they are there, please join us. Alberto, you already have your jacket on.
Is that cold? I see, and I see that someone might be hiding from the truffles. Patricia is joining us. I would like to take the opportunity, if you allow me, Marcela, as you enjoy more of the treats from Marcela, from Patricia and Rita, to thank everyone that has been behind these streets, specifically our cocoa producers in Arroyo Hondo, in Tapachula, in La Chontalpa, that have been portrayed by everyone. Salud, I will see that Will is pouring some good treats.
Look, the American is the one that is having a toast with Mexican wine, and we're not, but well, we will someday soon.
I think we can blame that we're still in the office, but hopefully soon when we get to home, we will be joining with a toast.
Today is a holiday for us.
All the consuls have been summoned to a meeting in an hour, so we have to be with Mexico regarding the elections tomorrow. So we have to behave from now till at least tomorrow.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Alberto, for telling me.
Except, I have to say this, except for the truffles of tequila and mezcal that I am enjoying.
Muchísimas gracias a todos. Thank you very much. Really, I think that all of you are all-terrain, but not just in the diplomacy and the chefs, but as persons. You are fantastic people, and we're building together something special and something new to keep on understanding each other. So thank you very much.
Gracias a ti, gracias a todos los organizadores.
I will have to toast to that, and also Marcela, if I might steal the microphone, and Rita would like if we could do this together. You are warriors of our nations, back in Mexico City and here in Los Angeles, in Dallas, in Boston, in Washington, D.C. You represent us, you take care of us. With you and your teams here, Sandra, for example, in LA, and all our crowd in Boston. So this is a celebration also for you. This is a treat, this is a menu. I know you're tired, now you have to go in an hour to talk about more serious things, but from the chef perspective, and the chef joined me in here, I hope you have a sweet bite in the middle of this bitterness. As my mother always says, Mexico has the contagious because it takes death as something sweet. So I hope you take this path, this arduous path, in something that can be sweet. Thank you for your presentation. Rita, I don't know if you have anything to add.
No, pues sí, thank you again. Todo el respeto por los cónsules, todo el agradecimiento por los chefs. All my thanks to the chefs and to the consuls for representing us there and for allowing us in the Mucho Chocolate Museum to be a part of this very unique celebration. It is an example of what's coming for this time. Los saludos a todos y muchas gracias a los cónsules.
Gracias.
Buen provecho y salud a los chefs y al American Diplomat, Mexican Diplomat.
Feliz Día de los Muertos.
Feliz Día de los Muertos.